Howdy.
Hello, it's Alicia here.
And I'm Justine, and we are Womanufacturing, a podcast focused on the challenges and the growth in manufacturing and how we navigate it as women and people expanding the field.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Alicia Lomas. I actually just started my own business, so I get to have the fun of working for myself. But this has been a big change for me because I have been in the manufacturing space for 20 years, working for various individuals and doing a lot of automation and controls and process design. I'm a chemical engineer by nature. And it's been challenging to be a woman in manufacturing. And, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this, because I want to take from learnings and help other women feel comfortable coming into the space, knowing that it is frustrating, but there's absolutely ways around it. And even though we may have to prove ourselves every day, again and again, and it gets irritating, we do, and we stick with it, don't we, Justine?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm Justine Feist. I actually also have a degree in chemical engineering. And although I'm useless at controls, I do actually still do some of the chemical engineering side of the work. I am a manufacturing process engineer at a company called ESS, and we make iron flow batteries, which means pretty much nothing to a lot of people, but we'll get into it eventually on what that means. But the day-to-day of my life is being on the production floor, steel toe boots. My desk is on the floor so that any of my technicians can come up and check with me on product quality. And, being in production is deeply challenging. When you are a company who makes something and you are the boots on the ground making that thing, you're not a company if you're not running. And so that pressure can certainly build up. And it's not just challenging for women, obviously. It's a demanding career path, no matter who you are. And there's a certain level of grit and stick-to-itiveness that is required in manufacturing that is just not it's not for everybody. But I do think that we would benefit in production having more minds and more diversity of thought. And so, yeah, we're just here to give a platform of experience and a voice for other people, and ideally something that resonates with others. And at my core, I just adore Alicia. And so I like spending time with her. And so we just decided it would be beneficial to be able to share our ponderings and share our grief and just give us a way to be able to talk through some of the things that we've faced throughout our career so far.
For sure. Yeah. And I should probably talk a little bit more about my background. I have worked at a lot of different companies, a lot of ones that you'll recognize because I started my career in food and bev. So, Daisy Brand and Chobani and Oberto Sausage, Ghirardelli Brownie Mix, Krusty's Pancakes. And then I
You
got
worked
into
at
EV
Krusty?
Battery. Yeah.
Oh my
Krusty's.
gosh. Okay.
So good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then EV battery recycling, which that's where I met Justine. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, and did a little bit of green methane work. So I've crossed a lot of the industries, so I've kind of seen it all, and each one has its unique challenges and is more women, not as many women. It's been really interesting, but I can easily say that I've been almost the only female engineer in a lot of instances, or one of the very few. So, but on what you were saying earlier, Justine, about how manufacturing isn't the fate of heart, I was going to say, how many times did we start a crazy important project on a Friday afternoon?
Oh my God. I don't even want to talk. Well, I swear, and it still happens. It happens not even so Alicia and I met at a startup. Um, and there is no boundaries of when things need to happen and who thinks what timelines make sense. But even in a different and now in a different role or at a different job, but with the same title, we still like to do the thing where someone gets a bright idea on a Friday afternoon and it becomes the process engineer on the floor to implement by the evening. And it's up to him or her to just get something stable enough that like people will do it. And the most challenging thing is like when you're doing a 24/7 process, that means that there's human beings who you haven't even talked to probably who are going to keep implementing the thing that you spoke into law on like your Friday when you're like, I just want to go home or go out with friends and forget this place. But now I'm like cemented to this like responsibility that's not even like I'm not even able to execute it. Or if you do like we did, we just end up going in on the weekends anyways, just to cover it and make sure that when you come back in Monday, it's not like utter chaos that you still have to speak for. There's like no winning in the situation. You
There's no
either work a lot
winning.
more or you make up the work that you didn't do on the weekend through the next week. But yeah, they love fucking up a Friday. I don't know what it is to say. No, we gotta put like, oh, this is gonna be explicit. But like,
I think there was like a alarm that went off on these people's desks that said, "Oh, it's a Friday at 4. Let's come up with a crazy idea and have everybody come implement it and hope for the best."
yeah, and it was always like, I wish that the rule was that if you come up with the idea, you have to execute it. Because I mean, how it works on the floor, at least where I'm at right now, and it's like a joke between the process engineers almost, but it's like if you point out a problem, someone will say, "Yeah, it'd be great if you could fix that." You know, like you can't just point it out. But if you're of a certain like I don't know, if you're not working on the floor and you just bring up something that needs to be fixed right now, there's like, well, who's we? Like, it's not you.
Do you have a
You're not
turd in
gonna
your
do
pocket?
it. Yeah, it's like, it's me. I have to do this now. And the trick of it is if you care, which most everyone who sticks with production cares. Because if you have apathy and you don't really mind on your quality or what's going to get done, then you just let it slide and then things are shitty and then it cycles and nobody wins. But if you care, then you'll stick around and like get it done. Because if you don't get it done, then you just have to dream about it later, which is like not, you don't get restful sleep later, obviously, if you're just like still thinking about it.
Yeah,
So,
the audience is going to learn about our overactive minds and how we don't sleep much and we're often dreaming about work and all the things. So, yeah, they're going to get
yeah.
to hear all of that.
You mean normal people don't keep a notepad by their bed when they have a fever dream that they think solves the problem and you like read it the next day and you're like, this is nonsense?
No, absolutely. That's
Oh,
not normal.
whoops. News to me. Okay, sometimes I have good ideas from my fever dreams. It's like
Oh,
rare.
for
Most of the
sure.
time it's just like, okay, I wrote it down so now I can actually sleep. Other times it's like, okay, that's actually gold.
All right, maybe we should get back on to what this whole
Oh yeah.
thing's gonna be about.
Sure,
And
sure, sure.
I think we're giving people a really good flavor of what our conversations are gonna be like because we're just gonna be all over the place and we're gonna talk about really fun stuff. And we hope you can relate. And really, what we're trying to do is create a space for people and give you those not so pretty stories, give you those success stories so you can kind of see what it's like, and hopefully we can spark some interest and stop women from leaving engineering, because
Mhm.
we've both seen it. People are fabulous production supervisors, fabulous engineers, but it's just too tough for women, unfortunately. It's not the most set up environment, even though it's 2025 and you would think it would be better. And I'll say it did get better and then it kind of got worse again. And, we'll
Yeah.
dig into some of that.
And I mean, I would even say that it's not a matter of it being too tough of an atmosphere. It's just there are more rewarding jobs without having to cut through the noise of making a very solid voice for yourself, right? You don't have to stand certain grounds to be able to be heard and to be respected. And just depending on your demeanor, it is not a welcoming space. And it is tricky because I'm a fairly assertive person naturally.
No,
And
you're
so
not.
yes, I am. But so for me, it feels quite in my normal range of how I find my voice and how I express myself. But I do see with people who are more team builders and who are more personal encouragers, and they really want to be a motivating force, that time and time again, they get kind of not directly stepped on, but just not as acknowledged and heard. And that is so discouraging. And I find that a lot of times women are big group considerers, right? We want to make
Yep.
sure that all the herd gets to where we need to go. And if that means that we work more or we compromise ourselves to make that happen, that's just kind of a natural role. But it is not a rewarded thing in production. You kind of have to hold firm and move things forward. And it's just, it just adds more challenges because it goes against
Absolutely.
some nature pieces that ultimately make a better, more stable team, but is just not nearly as rewarded, which is hard.
Yep. And I also want to say, like, I hope there are men that are going to be listening to this and are listening now, because I have so many allies in this space and we wouldn't be here without those allies. And this is not going to just be us talking about we're women and it sucks, because that's not the case. We're going to talk about startup stories and the chaos where we were in the trenches with our male counterparts, and hopefully it's going to be a lot about manufacturing, but we're trying to empower women as well, so we're not going to skirt that issue.
For sure. And it also just kind of gives hopefully some insight into what is available, because I know there's a lot of young people who sometimes you choose a degree like engineering because everyone says there's going to be jobs, and then you actually don't know what that job is. And really, and I'm sure we'll touch on this later, I don't actually know some of your trajectory and how you got to where you are. But when you graduated in chemi, did you think you were going to be a badass controls chick later? Like, no, probably
No,
not.
I didn't even know what that was, because there's not a
Exactly.
US degree for it.
There's not? That's ridiculous.
Only mechatronics and robotics. Like, it's a big problem. I'm trying to figure out how to solve it.
And mechatronics is an important role. And I mean, I guess that's fair because a lot of my other controls folks that I know are either like mechies or there's some computer science, but because PLC is not, I'm just talking my ass because I don't really actually do any of this work, but it's not the same as like a coding language, and you're not doing like that kind of machine manipulation. So it's very curious because you're doing the software to drive the hardware versus like the software that's just like the software doing the software.
Yeah, controls engineering is all about the hardware software interface, and the programming piece is a very small part of it, for sure.
Yeah. And honestly, I need more people who are aesthetically inclined, because some HMIs are just so atrocious and confusing. You're like, why would you publish it like this?
Oh,
It's like
my
the buttons are
goodness.
too small to tap, and everyone's like, I want a touch screen. I was like, this is garbage.
Yes, we will talk
Uh,
about that in the future. That's a whole can of worms.
totally,
Because we're
totally.
not website designers. Like we didn't take UI UX classes. Like so
And
we're just doing our best. We're making
I'm
it
not
functional.
okay, I'm not expecting it per se, but like, I mean, but there are people who like sell a machine, right? And then their user interface, their UI is just like dog shit. You're like, what? How are you making money? And they're like, because the machine works and you just have to go
Right.
through the clicky hoops to get there. You're like, this is a nightmare.
Right.
And
And then
all
you
I
have
deal with are like human beings trying to understand the machine, right? Like I am the translator
right.
between humans and the equipment. And it just
Yeah.
makes a really tricky job, especially because I'm working with all backgrounds of people, some who are
Mhm.
engaged and interested in learn and some who are completely apathetic and just there for a paycheck. And it's just
Right.
like I got to work with the gamut of people, which is a fun challenge for me and sometimes a not fun challenge for me.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and then you have the executives that have never ran a factory and they
Oh yeah.
come to you and say, "Let's take away all decimal places on all your analog values because that is going to look better." And then come to find out you can't run your plant if you don't know your pH down to 2 decimal places. So,
Mhm.
we have lots of really good fun stories to tell.
Oh my god. I cannot imagine. You're like, this chart looks really choppy. Can we smooth it out? And you're like, no, because I'm making
That's
a
your
chart
process.
just for you to see, but it's actually controlling things behind the background. Like this isn't about you and your like outward facing plot. Like, what's wrong with you?
Seriously.
Uh anywho.
Seriously.
But yeah,
Yeah, and
so
I was just gonna say, like, one thing that we're gonna definitely do is bring on guests and, if
yeah.
anybody's interested in coming on and have a fun story to share and, really have a passion about some of the topics we're gonna be talking about or have ideas on what topics you'd like us to talk about, please, reach out to us. We're gonna make available all of our contact information. And then we're just gonna have some sessions like this where we just shoot the shit, tell stories, complain, laugh, cry, whatever we need to do.
Yeah, and we are planning on trying to keep these shows approachable and semi-short in the sense that if there's a topic that's big enough, it could be multiple episodes, or you can bring people in and out that touch upon certain things. There's a lot of pieces like startup culture and how small a startup has to be for you to actually be able to impact what that culture and that direction is, and what is within your control and what's out of your control, because that's something that we, or maybe I should at least speak for myself, but I would say that we struggle with. We take on a lot of personal burdens on ownership for things that wouldn't actually be in your control, and how if you can buffer that and protect yourself, that it actually ultimately makes you a better worker, even though it feels like you're doing a lot of work. So there's just a lot of topics that we'll dig into as a whole as we get through this. But um, yeah, and I mean, Alicia alluded to it earlier, but like the timing on this is quite wonderful because there have been some cultural movements for women and giving voice and giving opportunity. And then there's backlash and confusion on what that means. Um, and the biases and barriers are just, they're real and you can't ignore them because that doesn't improve anything. And you can't just put on a power suit and act like a dude and think that it's going to change how people look at you. It's like we have to encourage that being a woman in this space is a positive, and you don't have to mask that to find success. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a recent back and forth conversation with someone on LinkedIn where he was basically trying to say that women just aren't interested in engineering. You're one of the exceptions, and that's just a normal thing. And I was like, whoa. And then he tried to also say that, I've never really seen anybody call a woman a name or talk bad about her behind her back or, call her stupid or whatever. And I'm like, just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it's happening. And just because people aren't outwardly saying, I don't trust you because you're a woman, doesn't mean their biases and their actions aren't, making you feel that way, or
Absolutely.
pushing you out of the room or whatever. So, that's another reason why now is the right time. And I also had, a fellow podcaster tell me, are you sure you want to do this? This is going to be a tough conversation because there's still so much sexism, racism, all of that in the world. And I'm like, that's exactly why we're doing this. I'm not scared. Like, we need to do this so that more women don't get pushed out and we make a better space for ourselves. Because I've been told a million times from bosses that they love hiring women engineers because of some of our natural abilities to be detail oriented, empathetic, just care about, get everybody's consensus while still being firm and making a decision, bias towards action, whatever
And
that
hard
looks like.
workers. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not diminishing my male counterparts. My company wouldn't run without them. It's mostly guys, let's be honest. But I just see so much push and drive coming out of some of these women. And I think a portion of that is that, well, they're gritty, stick to it people. And then also on top of it, there is a bit of a effort to perform. It's like it's an unspoken thing where it's like, well, I'm just gonna get it done because I've worked harder to get here, and so I'm used to that feeling, and it makes a resilient worker, which is fantastic. So I can see why bosses would appreciate having women on the team, and it's been shown time and time again that the more balanced you get with gender and with different cultures, the closer you get to a really stable base. I mean, it's like having diversity in a gene pool. It's just, you can't inbreed. It's unstable and weak, right? It just doesn't get us there. And so I don't know why we push out. Well, I know why we push out alternative thoughts, because it can be challenging. And sometimes it does take more time to listen to all the voices. But ultimately, your solutions are just that much more robust. And I hate the word robust because it's like a trigger word, because it's like, we need to build this robustly. And I was like, I don't want to talk about that. But for this instance, I feel like it was worthwhile.
Hardened, hard ass, whatever you want to call it. Like, but also, now that you said inbreed, all I can think of is incest. And like, I don't know if you watch much TV, but White Lotus has a incest scene, and
oh my god, you have to spoiler alert that. You can't just throw that out there into the world. Well, somebody's behind.
Sorry, guys. I guess I'll try to do better on spoiler alerts, but you might get some.
Well, the good news is I won't spoil anything because I live under a rock. I read books. I don't know any pop culture references, so people just have to talk down to me when there's like, no, this is like clearly happening. Well, so that's not fair. I do listen to like the BBC News, so I'm like aware of the general newsworthy things that are happening in the world, and I just like let the most atrocious American news trickle up through like the world news, which happens more often than we'd like, but that's okay. And I'm not particularly interested in talking about the political climate, but when it does impact us, I'm sure concepts will come up. And being strong women, if you can't agree with some of these concepts of equality, we might not agree on what's happening politically speaking. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and if you're a really big fan of like the whole initiatives to cut out DEI, this show might not be the show for you either, because we are very much into that.
And I wanted to note that for the person who stated it, because they're being thoughtful and showing concern for you on, do you really want to start this kind of platform when there's still so much hate and backlash and things like that? And my statement is, for anyone who's feeling uncomfortable by the content we're sharing, listen to something else. Like, I'm not trying to, like, you don't have to agree with me. That's okay. If it is driving you to the point of anger or personal violence, I would suggest listening to something that you agree with, or
Absolutely.
calming noises, or I always suggest a walk in the woods and listen to birds. That's pretty non-inflammatory. So just turn away. It's okay. I'm not here to cyberbully you. Like, just it's okay.
Agreed. So we should probably chat a little bit in our few closing minutes about kind of how we met and how our journey started and you know how we vibed and why we're here. We'll definitely not get to all of it, but maybe just a quick high level. You want to start, Justine?
Yeah, I think our love for each other will just kind of flow in and out of any chat that we end up having, right? But yeah, so I worked at the startup as my first job out of college, and sweet baby me didn't know anything different. Just kidding. I had done some work in other industries, and I had learned pretty early that I just had a certain click level, a certain like pace that I like to do, and well-established industries that have been doing the same thing for 20 or 30 or 60 years was just too stable and stagnant. And so I pendulum swung into a very rapid growth space with a wonderful mission statement and a thing that I could really work towards and had drive within. Trying to impact the planet for good ultimately, right? And
Yeah.
so I started as an intern and then was hired on full time. And right around when I started working as an actual engineer, Alicia joined as our first controls focused individual, I think is fair to say, right?
Yeah, and I think I was the first engineering manager too.
Yeah. I
I
think other
wasn't
people
managing
might have
anybody.
like moved, they like moved into like teams naturally had a leader, but we were so small. And so like we were around the first 30 employees, right? So
Yep.
itty bitty tiny and very engineering heavy, which is necessary. But these are engineers who are like, we were doing the jobs too. You're on the production floor, your hands are on the equipment, your hands are on the product, you are
And quite
quality.
dirty.
It was constantly dirty. So, at any rate, welcome to Womanufacturing. You'll be hearing more from us, and continue to listen.
Yes, we will see you next time, and you'll get to hear a whole lot more fun. So we hope you enjoy, and we hope you keep coming back.
Take care.
Bye.